Results, 297 electoral votes for Carter and Walter Mondale, 27 more than the 270 needed for election. Here's more from Linda Ellerby.
Election night, 1976.
NBC News projects James Earl Carter of the state of Georgia elected the next president of the United States.
But that didn't make him president. We only voted for a president in November. We did not elect one. American presidents aren't elected by popular vote. They're chosen by the Electoral College. The electors of the different states, like these in Illinois, met and voted in December. And Carter won that one, too. But he still wasn't president. Almost every year, someone offers an amendment that would eliminate the electoral middleman. So far, none has succeeded. So today, on the 6th of January at 1 hour past noon, the Senate and the House met in joint session to count the electoral votes.
The certificate of the electoral vote of the state of Alabama seems to be regular in form and authentic, and it appears therefrom that Jimmy Carter of the state of Georgia received 9 votes for president, and Walter F. Mondale of the state of Minnesota received 9 votes for vice president.
The outcome was then official.
Governor Carter of the state of Georgia has received for the presidency of the United States 297 votes. President Ford of the state of Michigan has received 240 votes. Governor Reagan of the state of California has received 1 vote.
So, pursuant to the Constitution and the law of the United States of America, James Earl Carter has won the popular vote, the electoral vote, and been declared the winner by Congress. And he still isn't president, and won't be until January 20th when he's sworn in. Linda Ellerby, NBC News, the Capitol.
So the American people have now been tested and survived through wars, riots, epidemics, depressions, floods, earthquakes, and the 1976 presidential election. And now, finally, it is over at last. There has never been anything like it in the history of the world. 30 primaries, about 24 or more or less serious candidates, and about 150 others, 2 conventions, 4 debates, nobody knows how many speeches over lunches and dinners of ham and raisin sauce. If it seemed to go on forever, it did almost. Not until today was it over.
And the president-elect and his chief economic advisors were in Plains, Georgia today, beginning a 2-day seminar on how to get the economy moving again. And there's a new option being considered. According to Mr. Carter, a possible permanent tax reduction plus a temporary 1-year reduction, along with programs to stimulate jobs. Bob Jameson is in Plains.
Led by Vice President-elect Mondale, Carter's key economic advisors and 5 cabinet nominees traveled to Georgia to fashion the economic package. They are divided over exactly how to structure it, but speculation centers on a $15 billion program weighted not in favor of a tax cut, but in favor of attacking unemployment. Despite some congressional calls for more, Carter's budget director, banker Bert Lance, said that he favors a $15 billion ceiling on the program to hold down the increase in the federal deficit. But Carter himself noted he's inheriting a big deficit. The president-elect and his group of advisors met for 3 hours. They are aware that labor officials and some congressional leaders feel a tax cut won't work and want a jobs program larger than his advisors are contemplating. And with signs that the pause in the economy is ending, some economists are advising Carter to go slow because too much stimulation will touch off a new round of inflation. As the meeting ended, Carter said there were no final decisions on the shape or contents of the package, but he said tax cuts were being considered, even a permanent reduction.
Well, we're discussing as options both those factors. A permanent tax reduction, which would be compatible with long-range reform, plus a possibility of some temporary tax stimulus as well that would only be for 1 year. But that's still an option that we're leaving open.
Carter said that just what he will propose to stimulate the economy could be announced tomorrow. Tomorrow, Carter discusses all of this with Democratic congressional leaders when they come to call in Plains. Though some of them want more than Carter may be willing to offer, it is likely they will agree here to what he wants, a compromise of jobs programs and a tax cut that will keep labor and business happy and keep the deficit from growing too much larger. Bob Jameson, NBC News, Plains.
And there'll be a new wrinkle at the inauguration of Jimmy Carter on January the 20th. On the reviewing stand in front of the White House, there'll be a solar heating system. And today they were installing the panels for it. The architects say, however, that the panels may provide more symbolism than heat, the symbol being the new administration's determination to solve the problems of energy.
There is continuing skepticism in the black community about Carter's choice of Griffin Bell to be his Attorney General. Mrs. Coretta King says she is disappointed, and black members of Congress want his confirmation delayed. Here's Carl Stern in Washington.
17 black members of Congress concerned about Bell's civil rights record voted to ask the Senate to delay confirmation proceedings for at least 2 weeks. Members of the Black Caucus also announced a crash program to get information on Bell, which could lead to their testifying against the nomination. Bell's possible role in Georgia's school segregation was a major concern of the caucus.
It simply seems to me that it's critical for us to know what kind of role he played in formulating a massive resistance plan in Georgia, what role, if any, he played, other key critical areas like that.
Meanwhile, the NAACP has begun checking a new allegation that Bell's controversial membership in a private club was made free when Bell became a federal judge. Bell could not be reached for comment. It is common for judges to be offered honorary memberships in clubs, but at least one of Bell's fellow judges refused to accept a free membership. Carl Stern, NBC News, Washington.
Kenneth Curtis today was named to be Mr. Carter's choice to be Democratic National Chairman. Curtis is the former governor of Maine. Richard Gardner, a professor of law at Columbia and an expert in foreign policy, will be named ambassador to Italy. Gardner is fluent in Italian and is married to a woman born in Italy. But Greg Schneider, one of Carter's closest campaign aides, will not become appointment secretary. The reason? Financial trouble and bad checks when Schneider's ran 2 bar restaurants in Washington. He still may get some job in the administration. David?
Other news coming along, a tanker loaded with 8 million gallons of oil appears to be on the bottom of the North Atlantic, but it is so cold there the oil may stay on the bottom. And some news about 2 extortionists, an outbreak of rabies, a dam that collapsed, a man who stole $500,000 and spent it pleasuring himself, and Ed Newman on the Super Bowl.
Is your mirror your enemy? I know mine was. Until I discovered the secret of oil of Olay, the mysterious beauty fluid that helps you look just as young as you can. Skin drinks in oil of Olay. Pure moisture and tropical oils soothe away dryness, so little lines and wrinkles are less noticeable. Oil of Olay, so you may look your youngest. Let your mirror be your friend.
So you may look your youngest. Share the secret of oil of Olay.
Stovetop stuffing mix or potatoes? We've been asking housewives which their husbands would prefer with chicken.
Definitely potatoes. He's a meat and potatoes man.
I would prefer the stuffing.
Stuffing?
I like it. I prefer it with poultry.
Yeah, but how come that she didn't know you would prefer it with chicken?
She didn't ask.
I'll make it for him if he wants it.
Thank you.
Ask your family. Stovetop stuffing instead of potatoes.
Fisher-Price built a Play Family Children's Hospital, and we'd like to give you a tour. You can meet the Play Family medical staff, and then send the patient upstairs in the elevator. You can even make believe you're taking his x-ray. And while you're pretending, you can see if a little love will help. The Play Family Children's Hospital, with 20 play pieces, by Fisher-Price.
The Coast Guard figures the chances are about 9 to 1 that the tanker Grand Zenith is somewhere on the bottom of the North Atlantic with 8 million gallons of oil in its tanks. If so, its tanks eventually will rust through. But in this icy cold water, they say the oil will form into a greasy, tarry lump and just stay there on the bottom, more or less forever. Today, the Coast Guard continued to look for the ship if it was up or survivors if it was down, but it found neither. Directing the search, Coast Guard Captain Bernard Hoyland in Boston.
Death from cold is a very, very real danger in New England waters this time of year.
Okay, what now? What are you going to do tomorrow and for the days ahead?
We're going to continue looking for an oil spill, not as big as we'd hoped, but for an oil spill, a debris pattern, and, of course, for survivors in a life raft.
You find an oil spill that Mel Patrick Lynch and Dominic Byrne were sentenced today in the Bronfman kidnapping case. A jury found them innocent of kidnapping Samuel Bronfman, the Seagram's liquor heir, but at the same time, in an unusual verdict, the jury found them guilty of trying to extort $2,300,000 in ransom money from young Bronfman's father. For that crime, Lynch got 4 to 12 years, Byrne 3 to 9. David?
The Mexican border is about the only part of the United States where rabies in dogs has not been eliminated, and there's an outbreak of it there now. 7 people, including 2 children, have been bitten, and since rabies is almost 100% fatal, they have to take a prolonged, painful series of shots. A report from George Lewis in Laredo.
Sorry about that. We're having a little trouble with Laredo this evening. Saccharin is back in the news. It's the last artificial sweetener still allowed to be used in food, and it is used in hundreds of products. Jack Anderson, the columnist, said this morning that the Food and Drug Administration is withholding evidence that saccharin may cause cancer. The FDA said not true, but at the same time it said that tests are being made in Canada, and if these tests show saccharin to be dangerous, the FDA will act expeditiously.
I'm cooking dinner right now. I'm cooking dinner right now. I'm cooking dinner right now.
In the Crock Watcher from Hamilton Beach, the slow cooker with automatic shift that goes from high to low heat automatically, so you don't have to be home to reset it. And the Crock Watcher has a removable crock, so it's easier to serve, easier to clean. The Crock Watcher. While it's doing your cooking,
You could be doing other things.
only from the Hamilton Beach Scoville world of appliances.
I'm a housewife and a working mother, and I take Geritol. You see, with the kind of day I put in, I have to take really good care of my health. So I try to get my rest and exercise, and I take Geritol every morning.
Geritol, to be sure you get enough iron, more than twice the iron of any ordinary supplement, and some very important vitamins.
I do a lot for my husband and for my children. Geritol is one thing I do for myself.
Take a look at who takes Geritol, shouldn't you?
Is that you, Harold? Sit down, boy. You know a lot about fast foods, fast dancing, fast living, but you don't know a darn thing about fast relief. Time you learned about plop, plop, fizz, fizz. Those bubbles don't pussyfoot around. Just look at them bursting into action, itching to get to your upset stomach, ready to speed relief to your aching head. Boy, that's fast. Oh, what a relief it is.
In Seabrook, New Hampshire, the electric company is or was building a nuclear power plant for up to $2 billion cost. The Environmental Protection Administration had approved it, but after construction was well along, the regional administrator of EPA changed his mind and said the plant would pump warm water into the sea, which might damage some sea life. Today, the company said it was cutting back work on the plant, and because of the huge losses this causes, there is now some chance the plant will never be built. John?
Last June, the Teton Dam collapsed in Idaho, taking the lives of 11 people and causing about $1 billion worth of damage. Today, a Blue Ribbon panel said the design of the dam, built by the federal government, was unfortunate and that there were inadequate safety precautions. Further, the Interior Department has asked for an outside investigation of a number of other dams in the West which could have problems. Don Harris has the story of the Teton Dam.
The dam collapsed June 5th of last year, sending a wall of water down Idaho's Snake River Valley. The reservoir was being filled for the first time when the earthen dam failed. The flood took 11 lives and caused more than $1 billion in damages. The small communities of Teton and Rexburg were hardest hit. So far, the federal government has spent $200 million for disaster relief. The state of Idaho has spent $2.5 million more. But there are still 1,200 families living in temporary housing, waiting for new homes. 410,000 acres of valuable farmland were flooded and the crops destroyed. Now, 6 months later, officials say all but 3,000 acres of this land can be reclaimed. The Select Panel released its findings today in Idaho Falls, saying the dam was poorly designed for the site. The report was presented to Idaho's Lieutenant Governor.
I think that the Bureau is going to take the blunt of the criticism in this report. It was designed, improperly designed for the geologic conditions that existed. I think that's my interpretation as I was briefed the last 2 days.
In Washington, Deputy Interior Secretary Dennis Sachs admitted people involved in the construction of the dam are still on Interior's payroll.
Are the same engineers who designed this dam still working for you?
Yes, they're still employed. Well, let me just back up on that. I believe that many of the people that have been associated with the Teton Dam are still working in the Bureau of Reclamation. That's right.
Well, are you concerned that perhaps they might make some more mistakes?
We are concerned, and that's why we have launched not only the investigation of this failure, but an investigation of overall procedures to make sure that we can avert this failure, any other failure.
It is expected that several hundred more claims will be filed against the government as a result of the Teton Dam break, and no one knows whether there will be an attempt to rebuild the massive earthen structure. Don Harris, NBC News.
More inscrutable news from China. Wall posters in Peking are said to be calling the disgraced former Vice Premier Deng Xiaoping comrade. He could be making another spectacular comeback, which would be the second time in his remarkable career. The Chinese Communist Party newspaper has confirmed that there was serious fighting last year in many Chinese provinces, but that order has now been restored. And Reuters says the Chinese have confirmed that in last year's great earthquake in and around Peking, up to 700,000 people died, the second worst quake in history. And the first, incidentally, was in China, too, in the 16th century. David?
Roy Neal has been to an Air Force base in Nevada to see what they were doing. And what they were doing was fighting simulated air battles against fighter planes painted up to look like Russian planes. And while nobody gets hurt, they simulate this battle with great energy and enthusiasm.
There has never been an air war over the continental United States. But at Nellis Air Force Base, Operation Red Flag comes very close. Fighter pilots from bases all over the country bring their planes and their crews for a month of training. The graduation exercise is a full-scale combat strike. Nellis is the largest base in the Tactical Air Command. There are usually about 250 aircraft on the flight line. That's more than the entire Air Force of a lot of foreign nations. On the range, there's a combat zone set up to simulate communist nation defenses. There are military convoys, airfields, and defenses against air attack. Long-range enemy radar, surface-to-air missile sites, and sophisticated electronic equipment to jam air-to-air communication. All of it built to look and work just like Russian hardware.
American jets are used to simulate communist MiG fighters. They're F-5s, small, fast, very maneuverable. And special camouflage paint jobs, including red numerals, are used to enhance the illusion. They're flown by a cadre of American pilots who have studied their Soviet counterparts. They have learned to fly like the enemy. These are the aggressor forces for Operation Red Flag.
Flying against them, almost every jet in the American inventory. The heavy emphasis is on fighters. In the field, Army troops and tanks are used to form a composite strike force. As they move toward the combat zone, the first wave of fighters goes in to destroy enemy defenses. Then the jets take on the enemy in the air. Pilots with combat experience say the resulting dogfights are just like the real thing.
Knock it off, knock it off. Knock it off. Bandit 1, knock it off, knock it off. Bandit 2, knock it off.
The attack is followed by radar and recorded by a team of specialists at range control.
Focus is now up to your right.
The ground targets are hit with real bombs and missiles. But the air battle is electronic. The planes are not shot down.
8 call, F4. Head towards corner. That's a kill.
Some of the pilots are presumed to be shot down. They're taken into the battle area, where search and rescue helicopters with fighter cover go in to pick them up. And finally, the pilots return to base for what may be the most important part of the training, debriefing. These pilots get together with the enemy after the battle to find out what they did wrong. This is the difference between red flag and actual combat. Most rookie pilots are shot down during their first few missions. Red flag gives them combat experience. It also keeps pilots fighting when there is no war going on. So the Air Force plans to continue and even expand Operation Red Flag. Roy Neal, NBC News, Nellis Air Force Base.
That's a kill.
The International Coffee Association is alarmed over organized consumer boycotts because of sharply rising coffee prices. It announced today it is going to spend $56 million around the world to sell coffee. In this country and an affiliate, the National Coffee Association will spend $9 million alone on a television advertising campaign. After 3 losing sessions this week, the Dow Jones Industrials gained a little today on the New York Stock Exchange, just under 2 points. The average share price went up 9 cents. James Baker, who was President Ford's campaign manager, said today in Houston that he would take the job of Republican National Chairman if it is offered to him. There were reports yesterday that the president would like to see him have the job. David?
About a year ago, a guard on a Brinks armored truck stole $500,000 and disappeared. Well, now the FBI has a letter from him saying the money is almost gone. It appears he has, no doubt foolishly, frittered it away on women, nightclubs, horse races, cars, motorcycles, and lavish gifts. Now that he's almost broke, he says he expects to be caught soon, but he seems to feel he spent the money wisely and had a good time while it lasted.
If you are lucky enough to get this new sweepstakes letter from Reader's Digest, just think, you could be one of over 35,000 people who will win up to $50,000 in cash. In the new Reader's Digest sweepstakes, $450,000 will be awarded, including that $50,000 grand prize. So watch your mailbox. Send in your entry. It's the only way to win.
Roman meal makes great sandwiches. Great toast, too. Here's why. Roman meal contains coarsely ground whole grain wheat and rye. That means the bran and the wheat and rye germ are retained. Toasting enhances the branny, nutty taste of the grains. The enriched flour and other nutritious ingredients give it a light, open texture. Roman meal, the good-tasting light brown bread. The Roman Meal Company thought you'd like to know.
Right in the camera. Hey there, Bright Eyes. Maybe you needed Nitol last night. Maybe you had trouble falling asleep. Well, that's what Nitol's all about. On those occasional nights when you do have trouble, Nitol can help make you drowsy so you can fall asleep. Come on, America. Stop yawning. For occasional sleeplessness, remember, Nitol.
This Sunday is the Super Bowl, an event that is extravagant in every way, from the price of the tickets, $20, some of them now being scalped, to the money paid to the players, to the size of the live and television audience, and to the language that goes with it. Edwin Newman, our resident purist in English usage, has cast a skeptical eye on what events like this do to the language, and here are his thoughts, clearly expressed.
The game on Sunday is Super Bowl 11. Now, there was a time when super meant something. It meant super. Now we hear it so often. He made a super move. That was a super play. They did a super job. That it means much less. It means roughly good. But where do you go from super? Any sports fan knows that. To real super. There are other phrases we may hope not to hear on Sunday. They came to play, as though a team in the Super Bowl would show up with something else in mind. He is some kind of player. What kind is not specified. He always gives 110%, which appears to be a physical impossibility. I am willing to hear it said that both teams are up for the game. That's better than what General Alexander Haig said about his NATO forces, that he would like them to be optimized in a posture of essential preparedness. A word you should be ready for on Sunday is wise, tacked onto another word, as in penalty-wise, they've had a bad game, or in baseball, his fastball's hopping pretty good, but he isn't all that great stuff-wise. A college coach said last week, team-wise, we're pretty young. This exists outside of sports. An airline pilot recently said of the Mississippi, the river is low, water level-wise. Now, which team will win on Sunday? Well, I prefer not to guess, but I don't want to say simply no comment. The current American way calls for, I am in a no-comment situation. That ends my audibilizing. Edwin Newman, NBC News, New York.
Thank you, Edwin. And that's it for this evening. Good night for NBC News.
Put Delta in, take washers out. Forget about those washers you used to worry about. Once you learn Delta's name, Delta, you won't have to worry about washers again. Delta Faucets, the name you can trust. For worry-free faucets, ask your plumber for us.
Delta and Del-X faucets. No washers, no washer worries.
Don't scratch that dry skin. You'll make it worse.
But I've loaded it with lotion and it still itches.
You need new Lanacaine medicated dry skin lotion. It's the only dry skin lotion with an itch-stopping anesthetic. Its doctor-proven anesthetic works fast to stop painful itching. Then its antibacterials and rich moisturizers permit healing of red, cracked skin.
The itching's gone and my skin's so soft and smooth.
Lanacaine medicated lotion, the only one with an itch-stopping anesthetic.
For body contact, there's Joe Namath. For bodies, heavenly bodies, there's Kate Jackson and Jacqueline Smith, two of Charlie's Angels, in the mad world of the Super Bowl. A big 2-hour star-studded spoof of football. It's foibles, fumbles, and follies. Saturday at 9, 8 Central Time on NBC.
Sears Big Sale. Save $150 to $350 off last year's prices on 1976 riding mowers and tractors. Save $200 on this 10-horsepower riding mower, now $599 with a wide 36-inch cut and 5-position cutting height adjustment. Another great value, save $110 on Sears' finest 10-inch Craftsman radial arm saw, now on sale for $249.95 with easy-to-reach up-front controls. Comes partially assembled, so buy now and save at Sears.
Hello, friends. We're the Purnell brothers, and we want to tell you about our farm-fresh country sausage we make out of Simpsonville, Kentucky. We make Purnell's Old Folks Whole Hog Country Sausage. We season it with our daddy's old family recipe, and that's the reason it has that comeback for more flavor. And when you put it in the skillet, it don't all fry away. So may I suggest that a good way to start your day is with a country breakfast featuring Purnell's Old Folks Country Sausage, because it's good.
No. When you're watching your weight, too much of even a good thing can be a no-no.
Yes, no.
$1,738. LTD2's discounted up to $1,107.